live. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are. Um, I am here with Pax, and I swear to God that I did not ask him to jump on the sofa here, and he still did. When I was preparing just about a minute before I went live, he just hopped on, and I wanted to say hi to you. We have some very important information to share with you on a difficult topic. It's about losing our dogs and also dealing with aging dogs. And one of the reasons why I decided to do this broadcast right now is that about a couple of days ago, I had one of my friends, Bohunka, who is my childhood friend from the riding club, the horse club where I used to ride as a child. She texted me through Facebook and asked me whether I could call her. And usually when people contact me after a long time, I know that they usually need something. And she needed me to um, give her an advice. Paxi, don't be naughty. You little naughty boy. She usually, so she needed an advice about her aging dog. So I called her and she was really distraught, sharing with me that she's got a 15-year-old dog and he has a tumor on just kind of around the back end, and that he's happy and healthy otherwise, and he still goes for 1 kilometer or 1 mile walk, and that he still bosses the younger dog around, and as she's telling me this dog's story and what's going on, she says, "Peter, tell me that I don't need to let him go." And I said, "Why would you let him go? Like, he seems to be enjoying his life, and there is no reason for you to let him go." "Well, people are telling me that I'm mean because I'm leaving him. He has this tumor and it's big, but he seems to be fine, and I'm confused and I don't know what to do." So we had a conversation, and by the end of the conversation, I could see how Max wants to go. I let him go. Okay, you go. By the end of the conversation, I was so happy because she was so much more at peace, and we had a plan. And she basically knew that she would recognize when the time comes, when the right time comes. So today, I'd like to talk to you about not only how to recognize the right time, which is the most difficult moment of us living with our dogs, but also give you some tools and to help with how to deal with losses. We veterinarians are, I would say, experts in losing, because our patients, no matter how good they do, they die much more frequently than humans, because an average lifespan of a dog, I'm just going to dare to say, is somewhere around the mid-teens. An average human lifespan is now over 80 years. So there's a big difference, and it makes veterinary medicine and veterinary practice the kind of fast school of life when it comes to losing and loving and caring and understanding and learning what it takes to actually go through the process. I have many of you sharing stories about their dogs, how much you love them, how much you care about them, how much some of you actually love them more than humans. And I don't really think that we should replace our human relationships with our dogs. I don't think it's healthy. But I also understand why we so often resort to our dogs when the going gets tough. There has been much written about unconditional love. And just a couple of days ago, I was hiking with Pax and thinking, I know why people love dogs so much because dogs don't lie. We know that whatever they are, they are. They never make anything up. Based on studies, dogs, well, not not dogs. Based on studies, humans uh, lie about 10 times a day on average, and I mean that includes the white lies, like, "Oh my God, your haircut is so nice," and or "Your dress is so beautiful," and then some people may not mean it. So dogs teach us that truth is actually the best way to go. While it is difficult, it is actually creating the best relationships. Before we go into how to make decisions and how to deal with aging dogs, I would like to start with something positive. I've been a vet for over 30 years. It's a scary thought. But I also know that in the course of my practice, and as I learn to help you look after your dogs better, I see a beautiful progression of people being empowered and knowing how to look after their dogs and knowing how to deal with their losses much better than before. I sometimes call this the first, second, and third generation of dogs. The first generation of dogs that we have and that I started working with, they usually have a lot of problems, and then my clients learn how to look after them, but they also gain experience for the future generations. So the second gen is usually healthy and much better and really easy to deal with because it's my those are the best moments to see that people actually are looking after their dogs well, and that they go, wow, I spend like 1/3 of the money on vet care and or maybe even less, and my dog is so healthy and well, and I haven't been doing any of the drug-based prevention treatments, and it's still going well. It's so much fun. I could give anything in the world for just that feeling that I can make a difference. So yeah, if you have a first gen dog, learn and read and educate yourself as much as you can. We have a lot of materials on our website, but there are other colleagues who can give you a different perspective, and then it's up to you to see what works for you and what doesn't. I can only share what I've learned over in the course of the years, and everyone has a little different style. I say that medicine truly is like art. You don't expect Picasso being the same as Monet. You don't expect Mozart being the same as Bach. And in medicine, you do develop your style and your own understanding. And there are also many different roads to achieve the same results. But there is also a general principle or general principles that when you follow, you will have better results in my sense, or in my understanding of medicine. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to deal with worry, because worry is omnipresent. If you've lived with your dog, no matter whether your dog is young or middle-aged or older, I am sure that you know what worrying means. Worrying that your dog will get bitten by another dog, or that he or she will get hit by a car, or he will get or she will get a disease of some sort. Worry does not really help, though. Worry is normal response and reaction. Our evolution has been the the cause of our worrying, because worry makes us more likely survive, or at least in the past it did, in the dangerous times when we lived in nature and in the wild. It's so interesting that when we worry, we actually go into these unreasonable case scenarios, and 90% of them, or maybe more, don't ever happen. And I have always been a big proponent of allowing the emotions and the worry kind of happen when it happens. Don't push it away. Don't pretend that it doesn't exist. The best way to neutralize worry is actually to acknowledge it, be aware that it exists at that moment. And then, and that's what I teach my clients to do. Then when worry comes, you actually try to almost like feel where you feel it in the body, whether it's your abdomen, your chest, or your shoulders, your neck. And then try to amplify the feeling. Imagine that that feeling has a volume and you turn it up. And weirdly enough, and I've done that many, many times, when I try to do that, and you can try to do the exercise right now, it actually disappears. So that's a tool that you can actually really use. The next thing is to deal with the worry of not having enough time. Not having enough time with our dogs, losing them too soon. I think that the worrying is actually worse than losing at the moment, because at least when we know that our dog is at the end of the road and we need to make that decision, we know when it has come, that it has come. But when we are waiting, that's the most difficult part. But I don't think that it's reasonable for us to spend the whole life in worrying, and many of us kind of do. You know, in one way or another, we spend much time worrying. So learning how to deal with the worry is actually super important. There have been so much written about living in the moment, and I'm not going to start preaching about living in the moment, because I actually think that acknowledging our human weaknesses, like worrying, is much better way to go, because if we don't, we kind of pretend everything is nice and pink and rosy. I have one of my sisters, actually, one of my sisters likes to complain, or used to like to complain, and the other one, no matter what was happening, she would always say, oh, everything is fine, nothing is happening. But you know, it was happening, right? So it's better to address it. The best way, from my perspective and my experience, to address worry is to live crazy, outrageous life with your dog. Do crazy things, be wild, have dreams, make them happen, take pictures, take videos, no matter how old your dog is. You can do some sort of crazy thing. You can organize a big birthday party, or you can take your dog for a trip of a lifetime, if you can, if there are means, if you can travel with your dog, if it's, you know, not too far. I have taken this to another level, I dare to say. I am a sleepwalker, and I sleepwalked through Glassdoor when I was in my early 20s. I cut one of my major arteries, and I almost died. As a result, I have gotten the gift of being able to have a service dog who looks after me when I travel, when I sleep in hotels, make sure that I wake up the next day. As a result of that, I've been able to travel with my dog, Skai, and now Pax, who is in the training. And you can see probably a little screen share. I took my dog Skai to Paris, because I thought, wouldn't it be great to do that? Wouldn't it be great to do down dog in front of Eiffel Tower? Wouldn't it be great to have him run around Eiffel Tower? Wouldn't it be great to collect my points and fly him first class to Paris? Like, crazy ideas. And people, when I talk to them about this, they would go like, "You're mad! Like, you're just insane." But you know, one of the things that I think we need to do with our dogs is to really live as crazy and wild and outrageous life as possible, so we have many memories and many photos and videos to live with when we lose them. And it's very hard for me to talk about this without getting all kind of emotional and teary, but it is so helpful. It is so helpful to do. So, you know, write down your dreams, try to do them, take pictures, take videos, do all that, because I don't think that there's anything more helpful and useful. Beside doing that, I would like to encourage you to make dates with your dog. Put it in the calendar that you will spend an hour with your dog, half an hour. Whatever your dog likes to do, whether it's playing or training tricks or just hanging down or combing your dog and cuddling with your dog. All that is important, but we get so busy with doing our work, watching YouTube, watching Netflix, searching for something to shop online, uh, feeling busy. Those are really insignificant things in comparison with spending more time with our dogs. And I think that it's the best time as well because it is what life is about, spending time with those we love. One of the biggest problems when it comes to aging dogs and senior dogs and dogs in general is that people procrastinate. I could write a book on procrastination. Procrastination with regards to preventive steps that people may take, or switching their dogs to raw food or homemade cooked food, whatever it is. Procrastination with giving supplements, procrastination with addressing our dog's dental care, back pain, thinking that cancer will not happen to them, but other dogs. There's a whole book actually waiting to be written on procrastination. Why do we procrastinate? I have no idea. I think that once again, maybe it's the everything is fine. We don't want to hear about it. We don't want to think about it. If we don't think about it, it's not going to happen. Well, it does. And I sometimes can't prevent myself from feeling resentful or angry when I spend years of telling some of my friends to do certain things and they don't until their dog gets seriously ill, sometimes with conditions that can be prevented, and not all of them can be prevented. So I don't want you to make yourself feel guilty that something happened. But if there is the knowledge, if there is the information, and we do nothing, it actually kind of is our responsibility for certain things happening. So there is a fine line between blaming ourselves for everything that happens and procrastinating. And procrastination is a big problem, serious problem. When people tell me my dog has gotten cancer, I don't want them to think that it's their fault. But at the same time, if their dog is on kibble, if it gets drugs, chemicals, if they don't learn how to do things better, cancer prevention is still the best way of dealing with cancer. I put myself on a little bit of a human experiment plan. I do a lot. I experiment with diet, meaning with healthy food, not diet. Actually, the best book that I've ever read on diet is How Not to Diet by Dr. Greger. I learn about aging. I try to apply what I learn in my own health to dogs. I am constantly thinking and planning how to help you and your dog to live longer. We do have a little bit of a study that we are preparing. If you want to register, Alicia and Michelle will be posting links. By the way, I would like to welcome Alicia and Michelle. I apologize for not acknowledging you. Somehow I was just right into the topic. But hi, Alicia. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, happy to be here. Hi.
Thank you so much for helping and posting some of the pictures and links. So anyway, going back to, and I would like you to, as well, Michelle and Alicia, share your opinion about things, because I know that, Michelle, you have experience from a veterinary clinic, and you, Alicia, have experience with loss like most of us. So if you wanted to share something, I'll give you the space to. So we have been able to increase lifespan in my practice. I dare to say by 25% in most dogs, just by addressing simple things like diet, like making sure that your dog is toxin free and that we reduce the amount of side effect causing drugs. That there's always a payoff with medication. I'm not saying that you should not be using medication at all, but I've been able to reduce the amount of medication in practice by 90%. Much of the materials and much of the learning is in the health and longevity course on our website. Uh, Increasing lifespan is one thing, but I actually am more interested in increasing health span, the quality of health. Many humans and many dogs actually live the last phase of their lives in kind of decrepit stage where we may be able to extend their lives, but we don't necessarily improve the quality of life. So that's super important to remember. There's a difference between a health span and lifespan. And in the ideal situation, and what I've seen with my patients and the dogs in our community, when they are under the care and the plan that I recommend, they usually have really good quality of life much longer. And then one day the life ends, as opposed to them suffering for 1/3 or 1/4 of their life in the decrepit and not a stage and not very good quality of life. The best way to maintain and improve the lifespan and health span is to apply what I call healing cycle. And we are not going to go into detail here, but the healing cycle is basically three simple steps. I used to say three, but now I'm thinking about a fourth one. Four steps to improve your dog's health and health span. One of them is to detox. Second one is to provide all the nutrients. And I only say that everyone knows that the garden needs to be fertilized and will look and be better and will look healthier. The same applies to our dogs. When it comes to Pax, he's my first dog that I've been applying everything that I teach from the very beginning of his life. And about 2 days ago, the person who helps us with the garden says, I've never seen such a healthy dog. Like, he's so healthy and so vibrant. And that was the best moment of the past year, I would say. when I get compliment on Pax and I see it, I see how strong and healthy he is, and I go like, good, right on. Like, I so want to share it with my community. Anyway, so the second one is nourish. So it's detox, nourish, and then align the spine, making sure that the energy flow in the body flows well. And the fourth one now, and I'm just kind of focusing on that, I've been focusing on that lately, is to improve the body's ability to repair and improve the body's ability to have good cell replication, regeneration, and DNA repair. And that's something that I'll be really focusing on in the next several years, I hope. All that is on our website. I'm sure that Michelle and Alicia will be posting some links to the healing cycle, to health and longevity course as well. So increasing health span is really important. But now we are going and heading into the times when the going gets tough, when our dogs get ill or old or get cancer. And you ask one question very commonly: how much is too much? When shall I let go? Whenever you extend your dog's life, or whenever you're making the decision, you have to ask the question: is it sensible and reasonable that we get a positive outcome? Or am I extending the life and doing chemotherapy and major surgeries just to prolong the suffering? Because in some situations, like chemotherapy in a terminal cancer, just to get a few months, in my opinion, is a situation where we do it just for us, not our dogs. Our dogs don't have the concept of time. They don't understand that life is terminal, that life is a terminal disease. They live, and when they do get uncomfortable, that's what they perceive. They do live in the moment. They don't have a perception of disease and health. They just have a perception of well-being and happiness and discomfort and pain. So whenever you're deciding why you're making a decision to, let's say, when you're deciding for a decision to do chemotherapy or some sort of, serious surgery, really ask whether it's in the best interest of your dog. To say that, sometimes I have dogs that get cancer, or had dogs that got cancer in the practice, and they would go through, let's say, a leg amputation for bone cancer, and they would have 5 more healthy, happy years otherwise. So it's not always to say that treatment is not appropriate. It is to say that you really have to ask: is there a reasonable chance that my dog will recover? And if so, how much suffering is going to happen during that course of the treatment? And if it's really just extending your dog's life for a few weeks or months, I personally would not go ahead. I had the option of putting Skai through surgeries when he got hit by the suitcase at the airport and got partially paralyzed. I knew that I could take him through surgeries, but I decided not to. He was almost 16, a couple of months away from 16. And I knew that I didn't want to really take him through the challenges. So anyway, I think that it's super important question to ask, and that you should do your best to think of your dog when it comes to these decisions, because that's what matters the most. However, I have seen some people really needing to get more time, otherwise they would completely fall apart. And that is a good reason to actually maybe extend life for some time. My partner actually was like that when he lost his dog some time ago. And I would have let him go much sooner, but he didn't, because he just couldn't let go. And I let him go through the process, because who am I to tell people what to do? But I do think that we should do our best to prepare. So always ask, how much is too much? And when it comes to letting our dogs go, when it comes to deciding when the right time comes, I've never seen a dog lover who would not know when the right time came, especially when there is preparation. You will simply know. And it's different for everyone, but the right time is the right time for your dog anyway. It is important to prepare for the inevitable, but you will know when. Our dogs are here to tell us when to go. Our dogs will give us the messages. Our dogs will show us, and you will know deep in your heart. And if you feel that you're not ready, and if you're dealing with an aging dog, you like my friend did, rest assured that you will know. And maybe talk about it with someone you trust. You can also send us a message. You can ask us, and we will send you some articles. We will send you some information. My team is really good in helping dog lovers, because they're dog lovers too. I do my best. I love connecting. There is one thing that I want to say, that if you love someone, the biggest expression of love is to let them go. I was traveling when Skai's time came, and I rebooked my flight and I flew home. I wrote a story, a letter to my dog during that time of the flight. I cried the whole flight. I remember that I was totally separated from everything around me, and I was just so much in pain. But I also knew that when I got home, I had to be brave. I set up a timeline of 2 hours. I asked my friend to put a catheter in Skai's vein. And I arrived home and I spent time with Skai sitting on or sleeping on the, lying on the couch and being really peaceful. And I knew that the biggest gift that I could give him was to be peaceful and to be there and be brave. And most difficult part was to actually take the syringe and put it in the IV port and push on the plunger. And I'm not necessarily asking you to do that for your own dog. You're not qualified for that. You need a vet. But it requires an incredible amount of strength. I have no idea how I got it, but I know that it was powered by love, by knowing that that's the biggest and the best expression of love I can give to my dog. When you set up the time to let your dog go, I think it's much better to do it at home and ask your vet to come home if possible. It's going to cost you a little extra, but money is not everything. Money is going to be there. And if it's not there, it's still worth to bring your vet to your home. I've had situations when we would open a glass of wine and look through pictures of a dog before. I've had situations with my clients when we cry, we laugh, we're there, and we celebrate. And I sometimes kind of know before I come to the home, I would basically explain what's going to happen, and I would say I will give you as much time as you want, but I also ask you at certain point, is it okay to go ahead now? Because sometimes it's just so impossible to say yes. It was almost impossible to say yes to me when I let Skai go. So now when we kind of went through that process, I often ask myself, and I would like you to ask that question, is sadness okay? Because when we lose our dog, some people say, don't be sad, it's gonna be okay. I get really pissed off about that because I'm like, why are you telling me not to be sad? Because sadness is actually part of the process. And the only medicine for not being sad is actually time. So I'd say be sad as sad as you need to be, because it's healthy, it's normal, it's human. It would be much more strange if you weren't sad. When we lose our dogs, our mind is used to seeing them everywhere. Like I remember I would be driving in the car and I would look back over my shoulder expecting Skai to be there, and he wasn't. I know that it was really good for me to take some time totally away from everything. I didn't reply to any emails, any phones for 2-3 days. And then I was also grateful for the outpour of love and care from my community and for my friends, and getting flowers and seeing how much people cared and how much they made me feel like I was not alone. Talk with friends, share with friends, share pictures, share thoughts, ideas, and even your emotions if it makes you feel better. Sadness is okay. And maybe you will think that we should push feelings of sadness away just to kind of hold our composure. How often do we respect people who are fake? How often do we love and admire people who are actually real? Fakeness is kind of a lie in one way or another. We said that we love our dogs because they don't lie. When they're upset or when they're happy, they tell us, they let us know. There are also ways of dealing with sadness on the physical level, meaning that everyone has some sort of physical exercise or things that he can do. I started biking. It took me away from from the sadness, going to places where I've never gone with Sky on my bike, on my saddle. I swam, I did yoga, and I also thought of the possibility of afterlife. Afterlife is kind of a wild idea because truly, honestly, if someone claims for sure afterlife exists, I will challenge that. And at the same time, I like the idea, and I know that the energetic quality of our dogs somehow is and always will be there. When Sky passed away, I played with the idea of afterlife. We traveled, and I spent actually some time with my sisters, and we went on a boat trip or sail trip to Croatia. And I was on the sailboat, and we were sailing, and I was thinking, Sky, if you're around, can you please give me a message? And I'm not kidding you, within a few minutes, people started calling out, hey, there are dolphins, dolphins, dolphins. And then suddenly I see two dolphins jumping against each other and creating a heart. And people, without me suggesting anything, they started calling, look, 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 they made a heart. And it was crazy. Like, I felt like, wow, how can something like that happen? How probable is it if there wasn't something beyond the physicality of life? But really, we don't know. The other thing that happened just before we lost Sky, I went to a park and I found this little stuffed doggy. I'm not sure, Alicia, whether you can find it on some of the articles. I think I've seen that picture this morning. Stuffed little doggy that wore glasses and had the same coloring and marking as Sky did. Sky used to wear goggles. Pax is really terrible wearing them. I protected Sky's eyes from the intense sun in Maui. Uh, we found this doggy. I found this doggy in the park just a few days before we lost Sky. It's crazy. It's wild. Or I was hiking in the mountains and saw and usually right away. They whistle and then they run away. And I played with the idea of maybe Sky somehow communicating through this marmot. So I kind of stopped, and he was just about to turn around and run away. And I kind of quietly whispered, wait, and it stopped. And it sounded like a dog. And then it did something really crazy and strange for a marmot that is afraid of people. He crossed his front feet and put his head on the front legs the same way Sky did. Anyway, I can make up stories around this and say that this is a proof that afterlife existed. I don't know, but it definitely is a good remedy. It definitely is a good remedy. When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time around horses, and I really loved one of the horses in the stables, and her name was Alpha. She had tendonitis, and I couldn't spend much time with her because she was quite ill. And I made a wish as a kid for her to be sold, because in the club they didn't really look after the horses that well, and I wanted her to be well. So I asked God, the universe, for her to be sold. And she had a great life, but I didn't spend enough time with her, and I always regretted that. I visited her a few times when I moved to Canada, and she was great, but I don't know when she passed away. We lost connection. And then when I got Sky in 2001, he had the same markings as Alpha, and he was the same color, and he acted the same way as Alpha did. He jumped over obstacles, and he loved to ride courses. And I was thinking, what if Sky was Alpha? It really made me feel great. I felt like now I got a chance. I'm a vet. I will look after you. I will make sure that you will have the best life possible. And then one of my friends visited from the Czech Republic, and when she met Sky, she says, "Oh my God, he acts like your horse." because she knew my horse. He acts like a horse. All these things are really fun. Take these messages as either self-created universe or real. I don't know. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter, but it really does seem to be helping. We think of our dogs as the best dogs, and we think, I remember when I had Sky, I remember thinking I can never get as good of a dog as Sky is. Like, it's impossible. Like, we're not gonna be lucky twice. And then we found Pax, and it was a kind of crazy coincidence, because I was ready to fly to get a rescue dog in Oregon. I was in Europe visiting my mom, who was ill, and we were looking for a rescue border collie puppy. And there was one in Oregon, and I was thinking, I'm gonna fly and get this dog. And they took about a week to prove us whether we are suitable to get a puppy from the rescue organization. And then I said, well, I really would like to get this dog, and I'm going to fly, but can you guarantee that this dog will be there when I make this flight, overseas flight? And they said, no guarantees. I was thinking, like, this is crazy. Like, I'm pretty qualified to have a good to be a good dog lover. I would like to have a guarantee. No guarantees. And that night I was just going on Facebook, and I found Pax in Prague, in a farm nearby Prague. So I thought, okay, maybe that's the message. And a year later, he's gonna be actually a year in 2 weeks. I am blown away. We got an amazing dog. And I swear to you that you will find your dog too, if you feel that he won't, if you're worried that you will always be in pain for losing your previous dog. It's going to turn into the sweet feeling of ever-present love, but you will not be in pain, because you will find another dog, and the dog will be good, because they all are good. They all are good. They just pass the baton of caring for us, looking after us, onto the other soul. So don't be living your life in fear that you lose your dog. Take it as a gift. It is difficult. Like, I'm not saying that I never worry about Pax now, but the worrying is kind of less intense, and the less I worry, the less problems my dog has. Like, Pax is a picture of health. My cat, I didn't worry about her at all when I had her, and she lived until she was 21. I think that the worry kind of generates problems sometimes. Not all, but a little bit. I sense that it does. Ultimately, life is a terminal disease. And our dog's departure will allow us to experience sadness. It will allow us to experience valleys of life. But it will also allow us to experience an incredible dose and amount of love from others, from our dogs. It's so strange. Whenever I euthanized a dog, I felt this sadness and the most love, and they were the most difficult and the most beautiful moments. So do your best not to spend your dog's life in worry, and make sure that you learn as much as you can to extend health span. And I'm sure that you, Michelle, have something to share, because you wanted to share something. So I would like to give you the talking stick, and I'll show you too if you do, maybe you don't. And then we'll be taking some questions as well. And we have 15 more minutes to go.
What I was going to say actually ties in a little bit with a question that we had from Carol. And she said, how did you know it was time, or how do you know it's time? And often what I've suggested to clients in clinic is that they take a calendar and you mark your good days and your bad days on a calendar, because it really just is about quality of life. And I think sometimes people hang on too long for them and not for the pet or for the dog. So one of my favorite sayings that I've shared quite often with clients is that We need to think of euthanasia as a kindness extended to a treasured pet. It's a decision that we make at a great cost to ourselves, but it's a final act of love, nothing less.
That is really beautiful, and that is really helpful as well. Everyone is a little different, Michelle, right? So you doing what you need to do to kind of understand clearly, and obviously talking to veterinary staff, because they not only are caring, I would just say 99.9% of the time, we don't take it lightly to euthanize a dog or a cat or a beloved pet. It's extremely difficult, and also we feel extremely privileged that you give us the trust to guide you. But it is super important for you to be at peace. If you're not ready, you're just not ready. Don't force it. If someone is telling you should euthanize your dog, just don't, if you feel it's not the right time. As I said, my friend was saying, I'm so grateful that you told me that I don't need to euthanize my dog, because other people are saying that I'm cruel. And then when I actually kind of checked with her how her dog is, her dog was doing well. He did have a tumor, but a tumor is actually the body's way of getting rid of imbalances to the surface of the body, especially if it's not affecting the internal organs. It's actually, I've seen some dogs living with a tumor for years and nothing was done because, I don't know, my clients didn't want to have anything done, or they would not have the finances to do. But weirdly enough, quite often I would see longer lifespan with growth on the surface of the body than trying to remove it and cut it out and taking a dog through procedures. Michelle, what have you seen that too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for even in my own case right now, we have a 15-year-old dog, and he has a tumor that we're aware of, and we've known about it for a year, and we made the decision to leave him and just let him live a good quality of life, which he has. And right now we haven't seen any changes or in his demeanor. He's runs and plays and he's happy, and we're really glad that we made that decision.
Yeah, it's in human medicine, we so like to be reactive, we are reactive in human medicine and also in animal medicine. And so it's kind of unheard of that people would choose to, like, let's say that they're diagnosed with near to 100% terminal disease, and then they're put through this chain of suffering and treatments that we know are not going to solve the problem. And I wonder often how often it actually shortens the lifespan, and people are afraid to not to do anything, right? So they kind of do everything, and it puts them through horrible ordeal. And the same thing happens with our dogs. And I'm not necessarily saying decide not to do anything. You have to decide, is chemotherapy good? What are the chances? Or is it just poisoning alive and slow dying? I personally I would be probably as, if it comes to my own dying, hopefully not for many years, but when it comes to my own dying, I will not jump on everything that I will be told I have to do. And I'm hoping for big advances in medicine and in longevity and health span. But with the current system that we have, I would be very careful about putting myself through torture. Anyway, Michelle, would you like to add anything else? Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that's good. I'm pretty glad I just got through that without crying. You've already made me tear up several times during this talk. So.
Oh, well, that's we kind of agreed. Well, I'm not sure whether we agreed, but I assume that we agree on one thing, that honest emotions are never taken badly from anyone. I think that's how we get to know each other, and it's okay. Alicia, do we have any questions, or do you have anything to add?
I think for me, one thing I would like to add is, based on my experience with the community and our team, we hear so many stories of people that are you know, at maybe end of life, whether it's an illness or just a dog that is quite old in years, and they beat themselves up a lot. And I think it's human nature. Like we think, I wish I would have done this differently, or I wish I would have done that differently. We put a lot of blame on ourselves. So, you know, when it comes to these really difficult situations, my hope is that everyone can just take a breath and treat themselves with kindness, knowing that they did the best they could do with the information they had at the time or the resources they had at the time, and that they will make the best decisions moving forward for any other animals in their future. That's one thing that I did want to add.
That's so important, and thank you for reminding me. Our dogs come to us as teachers. They teach us about what we don't know that we don't know, meaning that there's so much that we just simply are not aware of. And we can't really blame ourselves for absence of knowledge. The second generation is always the proof that you made a stride, a big difference. And that's what is an indicator how well you do. But if you know, and if you have knowledge, I'd like you to be open to knowledge, number one. And if you have the knowledge and you procrastinate just because you procrastinated, that may be something that you may want to deal with, meaning down the road with other dogs. Don't procrastinate. I'm just going to say, don't buy Starbucks coffee instead of your dog's raw food or homemade food or whatever supplements. Just kind of, you know, if people say they can't, or they don't have time, or they can't for financial reason, honestly, they simply just don't want to. Because if I go through lives of my friends and family, I see that clearly. Sometimes, you know, people say, I don't have time to do that. Well, we always have time, because let's go through our day and see how often we waste our time. And then we say we don't have time to make raw food or cooked food. Or let's see how often we buy something that we really don't need, another big screen TV or a purse or shoes or Starbucks coffee. We really don't need that. But as Alicia said, we have to be kind to ourselves, even with the procrastination, even with the mistakes that we made, because we're human and we have challenges and we need to learn. I think that it's also important to kind of be accountable for the learning, not for the mistakes that we make, because we ultimately do make mistakes, but for the learning. And there's a whole vast universe and internet universe of information, and you just have to decide who you follow, who to trust. There are many of my colleagues who have amazing information that I don't know, and vice versa. And you just need to basically continue learning. I can't even tell you how much time I spent listening to audiobooks, reading materials, studying, researching. It's so much fun. And when I go for my bike ride or dog walk, sometimes I put a headset in my ear and I listen and I make notes and I put bookmarks in there, and then I kind of see what the next step is. And that's how I kind of run into the new ways and treatments and ideas. So anyway, Alicia, do you have any questions from our community?
I was just scanning through, and there is one. I'm not sure that it's a question so much as something we haven't mentioned. Jocelyn, thank you for writing this. I'm sorry, reading it off of my phone. It's important for pet parents to plan ahead. Will you be looking to bury or cremate? Are there any bylaws in your area? What does your pet insurance maybe cover or not cover? Taking the steps maybe in advance to think about that, should you have the time to plan, versus it being something unexpected like an accident, might make it a little bit less stressful at the time. And I can speak to this personally because I lost my senior girl about a year and a half ago. And at the time, it's very traumatic. I mean, it's the worst possible scenario. You're heartbroken. You're not thinking necessarily about things like insurance. And I figured out after the fact, when I was looking into the fine print of my my other dog Diesel to do with his insurance, that she was actually covered for a certain number of dollars for her cremation. But I didn't realize it. And by the time I went back to the insurance company to ask, they said that I'd missed the window to submit the claim. So, you know, my fault for not necessarily realizing it in advance, but really good that if you are paying for pet insurance, read the fine print, know exactly what you're covered for, so that you can at least try to make a very difficult situation a little bit easier at the time, perhaps for you.
Thank you, Alicia. And, you know, if you are living with a senior dog, go through the materials that we have on our website. You know, and I would just say that in most situations, not all, but in most situations, it's never too late. If your dog is toxic, if your dog is on kibble, if your dog doesn't get the nutrients that he or she needs, just taking a few simple steps can actually really extend the quality of life and health span. And, you know, we get a lot of messages, and you can go on some of the testimonial pages that we have on our site, where people say, I can't believe how much difference this made. And I think that one of the reasons is that when we, when our dogs go through life and they get, let's say, depleted food, or they are toxic, the body's biochemical reactions and cellular health and organ health starts deteriorating, because, you know, it's like, I don't want to make the comparison, but it is like the tomatoes in the garden when they don't get enough nutrients, and suddenly you put a little bit of fertilizer there, and wow, there's 37,000 billion or trillion, I can't remember the number, 37 or 21 zeros. I have to review that. I say that almost in every single Facebook Live that I can remember the number. Anyway, tons of reactions every second happening in the body. If the building blocks are not there, it's not going to be happening. And, you know, that's one of the reasons that I'm making that experiment myself. When you take nutrients, you do feel better. You do age, but you do age better, and the health span is obvious, no doubt. I'm going on to 57. I'm 56, and I did not expect actually to feel as good as I do at the age of 56. When I was 25, I was thinking 36 in 2000, that's gonna be crazy. I'll be old. And I'm 20 years older, and I'm still doing the same things. And I'm basically making myself a guinea pig for the sake of our dogs to see how far we can push it. You know, books and all this. If you've done it, it's okay. But I think that it is like lying to ourselves that we're different on the inside. The inside matters much more. The cell health, the ability to regenerate and renew DNA, and be healthy inside is much more important, whether we look completely perfect and wrinkle free. So those are the, you know, I think that we should not lie to others ideally and be like our dogs, but we should also not lie to ourselves about whatever it is. So that's another kind of thought that came to mind. Alicia, is there anything else?
I've been scrolling through the comments, and Michelle can jump in if she's seeing something that I haven't, but a lot of people are just really, I think, empathizing with what you've spoken about and with each other. I see some conversations going on online. It's lovely to see community members connecting over such a difficult topic. But yeah, everyone's either gone through it or dreading going through it. And hopefully this sort of information is helpful to the process.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us. We will try to come back on again Thursday, 1 p.m. Pacific next week. We don't know what the topic is. I usually choose as time goes and see what comes up. And looking forward to seeing you, and give your dog a hug for me. If you have any questions, or if you're dealing with a senior or aging dog, please use our website. Go to the reference information in the blogs, the videos, podcasts, whatever it is, and give your dog a hug for me. Bye-bye.